Hello and welcome. I am Raziel, and today we're talking about the warp. Well, actually, we're talking about magic, to be honest with you, because it's an interesting concept within 40k because it really is the strongest, most powerful form of magic in really any IP. And the IPs I'll be focusing on, not just so because 40k can beat it, are the ones that I find the strongest in other comics and other IPs, and these are the Force with Star Wars, the Jedi, obviously, and the magic in Marvel. Well, there is magic in DC Comics, but it doesn't tend to really look that strong. It's used pretty well and sparingly. It's never used as this Deus Ex Mechanica that, oh my god, we finally defeated the enemy using some sort of hoodoo voodoo stuff, okay? So yeah, we're talking about magic. And also for this video, the reason I picked those, magic is a power which stems from an external source, such as, the Force and Star Wars. So that's where we're coming from. So Wanda Maximoff, Scarlet Witch, doesn't count. She's a mutant. Her power comes within. Same with Franklin Richards as well. So Doctor Strange, the Asgardians, which are both interesting concepts to come up with later. So yeah, anything that comes from an external source. There, things cleared up and sorted for the intro. Now, the first things first is that how powerful is the warp magic within 40k? It's insanely powerful. It is so powerful, in fact, a latent psychic. So a psychic who's not even aware they're psychic or formed their psychic powers later in life could accidentally destroy a hive city without realizing he'd done it. Well, they done it, whatever. But yeah, it's incredibly strong if not maintained under rigorous training. And the training is so strict that if a psycho within 40k for a millisecond, a nanosecond, for even the slightest blink of an eye time, forgets that they're a psycho or drops their guard, it can cause a massive amount of damage. They have to be constantly on guard because of the warp and its minions, and not being on guard could lead to so many catastrophic effects. This is the meme. Why is the psyker's head glowing very large and have scary eyes? Commissar Cox bolt gun. Yeah, it's strong stuff. Really is. The Force, however, is not, because the strength of the Force isn't reliant on the Force itself, unlike the magic or warp in 40k, which is the strength is reliant on the user. You can get two strong Jedi, but one will be stronger than the other with the Force because they are better at it. Well, you could have stronger psychers in 40k, and some can use it better than others. The actual strength is literally dependent on the mood of the warp at that point in time. Usually it doesn't care, but sometimes it's like it decides to be extremely mean and wants that psyker's soul, and decides just to whisk them away into their depths and destroy, just tear their soul apart, or go, no, we're just going to blow you up and destroy this battle barge instead. Yeah, it's strong stuff, and it can lead to all sorts of effects upon the user: insanity, mutation, turning them into a blob of goo. Yeah, just being a psychic or a magic user within 40k can have so many adverse effects, even if you don't know about it. However, in Star Wars and Marvel, you could be a magic user or be able to use magic and put it down for a second. You can just go, no, I'm not going to use it anymore, and you'll get no adverse effects. You won't get suddenly bursting into flames, or this Force deciding that you're actually a rock now. The main reason for this is that the warp itself is its own universe, best way to put it, and that it is completely separate from the material universe. And that's the way it is. Whereas with Marvel and Star Wars, the magic, Force and magic, are entirely consistent within the material universe. It doesn't rely on anything else. Well, you can have magic users in different universes, that is absolutely fine, but it's such a rare occasion that it actually coincides. The only time this really happens is with Doctor Strange, when he, Tony goes, "Oh, are we ever going to win?" He said, I saw all these different universes, and how many did we win in? None. And also that comes into sort of a premise that, and this is actually kind of written in MCU lore, which is weird, but Doctor Strange may be a quantum supercomputer. Yeah, it's in lore. It's written in I think it's Peter Parker's home in the Disney World. I think that's where it's written. So it's quite interesting. So we're not going to talk about that. And the other thing about magic within Marvel is the lack of actual magic users. We do have some. Don't get me wrong, but most of the magic is consisted to items, and things like the Infinity Stones. That's a bit of a stretch, but Mjolnir, the Asgardian weapons. And this brings up another interesting point about Marvel and the Asgardians. Asgardians don't regard it really as magic. They regard it as science. This was said to Tony Stark by Odin, where he goes, "What you call magic, we call science." Interesting philosophy. Basically, it's the old saying that people think everything's magic until science can prove it. I just think it's interesting. But as for strength or vid power, the warp just has it. It's just so strong. It tore the galaxy in half for a start. That's how strong it is. Now, let's talk about users. Users in 40k, as I said, psychers can range from, just the latent psyker accidentally making a little bit of a fireball in his house or lifting something off the table, something very minor, to absolutely army-wrecking powers completely. They can be that strong. They have been used as literal suicide bombers at times to destroy units. They can be that strong. In the Star Wars universe, yes, we have some very powerful users, such as Starkiller. I know he's not canon, but he's a good example, bringing down a Star Destroyer. And honestly, I can't really find anything in Marvel that kind of hits that level of power, even when we look at the Asgardian gods. Yeah, so I'll talk about Captain Marvel, going through Thanos' ship, but that's not magic. That's her power from her planet. Again, not magic. So that's pretty much it. That's the strength. Now, what makes the magic interesting in 40k, especially the warp, is though it is incredibly strong. It's very, very strong. It does have limitations. It has a lot of limitations. From the start, you could have a very powerful psychic being, including anyone up to Eldrad Ulthuan or even Magnus and the Emperor, would still have to be on guard with their psychic powers should the warp decide to look in their direction and to their side. We're just going to whisk you away here. The Emperor, on the other hand, does actually have a massive psychic power, but the chaos can't actually touch him. But when you talk about psychic powers on this level, and you are going to draw the eye of the Chaos Gods. So no matter how strong you are in 40k, your psychic power can still backfire on you just by a minor slip up. In Star Wars, the Force isn't going to suddenly just kill you because it felt like it. You're not going to have some Sith Lord walking around and go, la la la, I'm a Sith Lord, and the Force goes, yeah, I'm just going to blow you up. I'm going to turn you into a loaf of bread. I'm going to do all this silly stuff to you. No, if he doesn't want to use his powers, it's never going to have forget that he's a Sith or a Jedi. It's never going to have an adverse effect if he's not always mindful on his abilities as a Jedi or a Sith. Same with Marvel. Doctor Strange doesn't always have to be mindful that he's a magic user. He's going to have no real ill effects for using it. That's it. Not you, and not being aware, just not caring that you're magic. Not caring you're a psycho in 40k, yeah, it's going to cause you issues. And of course, let's talk about the magic users. Now, the magic users in Marvel range from sorcerers like Doctor Strange to demons as well. I'm not going to talk about demons and how, because that's actually for a different video. But yes, he is very powerful, don't get me wrong, but his level of power isn't even that to a medium psycho in 40k. Yes, he can travel through time. Yes, he can travel to different dimensions. Yes, he can travel to different universes. That is all very possible within his time frame. That is fine, that's okay, that's acceptable. But it's not that powerful because, again, doing it isn't going to suddenly make him blow up. Psychers, medium psychers can do the same. They can teleport. They can move from all sorts of positions, and yeah, they can travel to different universes. Basically, the warp and material. And Star Wars, it's kind of hinted that they can, but never really shown. And when you talk about other powers, the powers that we all know, let's look at the Asgardians again, and we have Thor and his lightning. He doesn't need his hammer Mjolnir to control lightning, he can use it without it. And lightning is very much a blasé force and a very common one for magic users to use. Now, the lightning of Thor is, of course, very much reliant on the weather, and it has to use the same power and psychic and physical laws of nature to work. So, while it would probably kill humans, it probably wouldn't bother a space marine all that much. And with Star Wars, they have their own form of lightning. We know the Sith lightning, and yeah, that can be blocked with a lightsaber, so it's not that strong. Whereas lightning, the psychic lightning of 40k is super powerful. It can wipe out regiments of space marines. It can take down titans by the strongest player, by the strongest user. Yeah, that's canon. I believe it was Aldrad Ufon who actually did that. And take out the biggest demons. It is a very powerful form because, again, it isn't reliant on the user for its strength. It's reliant on the source for its strength. The user just channels it. Whereas with Star Wars and Marvel, the strength is reliant on the user itself. This is what makes 40k psychic powers and magic powers so much stronger. The source is dependent on how strong it is. No, sorry. Yes, the source shows how strong it is. That's what makes it strong, not the user. Though the user can sort of channel it down. It's basically whatever the warp decides at that point and how strong it wants to be, which makes it so erratic. Magic in the other two are not that erratic to that degree. Yes, it takes strong training. It takes a lot of, training, discipline to use it, but its strength is always reliant on the user, not the source. And finally, it's the limitations. There are this is where 40k gets the warp and magic right. Now, it doesn't matter how strong you are and how strong something is written. If it is so strong that it can be used as a Deus Ex Mechanica, never defended, never blocked against, or anything like that, it would just be boring, to be honest with you. Limitations and weaknesses make a good story. They always do. And yes, the warp has these things in droves. You have the Tyranids for a start. You have psychic blanks. You have weapons which are absolutely anti-psychic, and that's what makes it good. But even the most strongest of psychic user can be brought low just by a Sister of Silence walking past them. So the defense against psychers and psychic magic powers in 40k is the exact counter to it. And you've also got Necron Pylons and the Blackstone Fortress. It has so many things that can just nullify it outright. So basically, while it can do anything, having the right person, the right weapon for and being prepared for it can stop it almost immediately. Also, a bolt round to the head does the trick as well. See, with Star Wars and Marvel, it doesn't ever really show limitations. You do get anti-magic users and anti-force users, but tends to be another magic user of equal strength and force user of equal strength to nullify that battle. You can't just have a weapon which will stop it. Anyway, so there you go, that's today's video. It's basically magic in 40k. It can't be beaten. It's just so well written, and I think it's one of the most interesting parts of the warp. It's fantastically written stuff. It's done so well that it's super strong. It can be used as a Deus Ex Mechanica at any time, but it can be easily nullified within the universe too. And that's what makes it good. You don't need someone as equally strong as that Psyker or equally as good with psychic powers to beat that Psyker. There are other ways of defeating it. Unlike Marvel and the Force, which are dependent on the user, on their strength, you would still need a magic user or a Jedi or a Sith to nullify that power. You cannot just have that And that's what makes the warp interesting. It's very strong. There isn't a universe that can beat it in just pure strength, and its weaknesses are even better. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. I've been Raziel. Like, comment, and subscribe as always. I'd like to hear your comments about this. Next week will be the warp, by the way, and how dimensions. So that's going to be a good one. It's going to be a bit more silly as well, actually. I did during the research of this one because I'll be using Image Comics for that. So, yep. Next week's the warp, and I'll see you all again in the next one. Like, comment, I said that. And finally, links to Whaling Games if you wish to save up to 20% on your Warhammer, and free delivery after £20. There is also Forbidden Planet for comics, DVDs, toys, plushies, etc., everything, all the cool stuff. And finally, my merchandise and comics, as always, down below. If you wish to support the channel, go through all them. And Skyfall, he's a good friend of mine, give him a heads up. Just click on his link to give him the algorithm help for Google. And I'll see you all in the next one. Bye bye.